My name is Roland S. Harris IV. I'm an attorney in Baltimore City, Maryland, and I'd like to speak with you today about the Gun Offender Registry Act, more commonly known as GORA. In order to find the Gun Offender Registry Act, you have to go to www.baltimorecity.gov. Once you get to the city website, on the left side of the screen you'll see a section entitled Charter and Codes. Click on that. Once you've clicked on that, scroll down and go to City Codes, where you will find a section entitled Article 19 Police Ordinances. Select that one. And once you've reached the police ordinances page, on the left side you'll see a list of different ordinances. Scroll down to subsection 60 entitled Gun Offender Registration and click on that one. Under the Gun Offender Registry Act, people convicted of certain gun crimes that occurred here in Baltimore City are required to register with the Baltimore City Police Department. A list of the offenses that require registration with the Gun Offender Registry Unit can be found under subsection 60-1, subsection E, entitled Gun Offense. Here in the definitions section, you'll see down in subsection E, you'll see that it's entitled the Gun Offense. When you go into the actual definitions section and you see the gun offenses, it lists all of the different crimes that require registration. The Gun Offender Registry Act treats people who live in Baltimore City differently than those that live outside of Baltimore City by imposing different requirements upon the different groups. By going to section 60-4 through 60-6, a person can see the differences. All registrants have to go to 2100 Guilford Avenue within 48 hours of their conviction or within 48 hours of their release if they are incarcerated at the time of their conviction. At the time of their registration, all registrants may be photographed by the police department. Gun offenders who do not live in Baltimore City only have to register one time unless they move into Baltimore City within 3 years of their first registration. If a non-city resident moves into the city during the 3 years following the date of their first registration, they have to follow the rules imposed on resident registrants. Registrants that live in Baltimore City have to re-register every 6 months, have to register within 10 days of changing addresses within the city, and must notify the Baltimore City Police Department of their new address before moving out of the city. Registrants that are residents of Baltimore City will also be subject to home visits, which will be explained later on in this video. It is important to note that under section 60-5 entitled Content and Form, you can find what information will be required of a registrant when he goes to register. These include the gun offender's name, a description of the crime for which the gun offender was convicted, the date that the gun offender was convicted, any other name by which the gun offender has been legally known, a list of all aliases that the gun offender has used, identifying factors of the gun offender, including a physical description, the gun offender's residence, and any other information required by the rules and regulations adopted by the police commissioner under this subtitle. In order to find out what this additional information is, a person has to contact the Department of Legislative Reference and request a copy of all rules and regulations filed under the Gun Offender Registry Act. The Department of Legislative Reference for Baltimore City is located at City Hall and can be reached at 410-396-4730. It is recommended that all registrants contact the Department of Legislative Reference because the information they provide will give you a chance to view the forms that will be used, as well as gives a registrant an idea of what will be required of them when they go to register. A lawyer should be consulted before answering any questions that are not contained in Section 60-5 entitled Content and Form. Under the rules and regulations that have been filed as of today's date, which is March 20th, 2012, the Baltimore City Police Department has added a rule and regulation that allows them to conduct a home visit at the home of the registered gun offender. While they're there, they may ask the gun offender questions, and they may also ask other members of the household questions. An attorney should be consulted before answering any questions in such a situation. It's important to note that the Gun Offender Registry Act that was passed by the City Council of Baltimore City does not give the police authorization to conduct home visits. They are only found under the rules and regulations that have been drafted by the police department themselves. Upon conviction, this form, known as the acknowledgement form, will be read to the registrant. It explains when and where the registrant must register and the maximum penalty. The registrant must sign this form at that time, and at any other time they are requested to do so by the Baltimore City Police Department. Failure to sign is a violation of the Gun Offender Registry Act. Please note that this acknowledgement form does not explain the information that will be required of the registrant, and that can only be found by reading the Gun Offender Registry Act itself and the rules and regulations that have been filed with the Department of Legislative Reference located at City Hall. This second form is the registration form. It is the only other form that must be signed by the registrant, and it must be signed by the registrant every time they register. Please note the large blank rectangle in the top right-hand corner of this form, and this is where the photograph of the registrant is placed by the Baltimore City Police Department when they fill out the registration. This form is filed with the Department of Legislative Reference at City Hall and should be viewed by every registrant because it will inform the registrant of what additional information the Baltimore City Police Department expects to obtain. A registered gun offender who does not comply with the Gun Offender Registry Act is typically going to have a high bail because of the way that the offense is viewed by the courts. Under Section 60-11, a gun offender can see that the maximum penalty for a violation of the Act is up to 1 year imprisonment for every day of non-compliance. In conclusion, gun offenders are being targeted by the Baltimore City Police Department, and unfortunately they have good reason to do this. The statistics show that people convicted of gun offenses are more likely to go on into the future and to commit serious violent crimes. As a gun offender, you are being placed on a special list, and the Baltimore City Police Department wants you to know that they are watching you closely. The truth is, every year, hundreds if not thousands of prosecutions are brought by the City State's Attorney's Office for violations of the Gun Offender Registry Act, as well as other investigations involving registrants. You as a gun offender can limit the possibility of being incarcerated for violating the Gun Offender Registry Act by being aware of what the Act requires, by keeping track of dates and times and the information that's given during your registration, and by understanding that your every move is being monitored by the Baltimore City Police Department. Failure is not an option needs to be the mantra of all registrants, who hopefully will seek happiness in the form of stable families, stable employment, and stable housing in the face of the efforts of the Baltimore City Police Department to keep them incarcerated. I hope this video will help registrants avoid needless incarceration. Thank you.